Whakawa.
No, Karako.
Hai, mihi atu kia koe me te mana whakawa. Huri no e te whare e tu nei, whare paramata e mihi atu kia koutou katoa. Sir, before I talk about this particular bill, I just want to acknowledge the passing of the Right Honourable Sir William Birch's wife, Lady Rose, who passed away yesterday. So just thinking of Sir William and also his whānau at this time. So I rise to support the exclusive economic zone and continental shelf environmental effects transitional provisions amendment bill. And so I'll be ticking off another sort of parliamentary milestone today in the fact that this is the first bill which I've seen go right through the legislative process. And I spoke on the first reading, sir. I sat in the select committee, and then I spoke on the second reading, and now here, sir, as the final speaker to hopefully allow it to be passed through to law. Sir, as the final speaker of the bill, I want to summarise the situation that necessitated this bill, the details of what it does, and sir, finally, the broader picture. And I do acknowledge the members from both sides of the House, and particularly the previous speaker, around the responsibilities of legislation, the roles of the opposition, and also those in government. Sir, when National first came into government in 2008, there was no regulatory regime in place to protect our oceans. And I think that is really a major point in this whole process. And so, sir, our exclusive economic zone, which is very vast, over 4 million square miles, or square kilometres rather, which really does contain some really untapped potential. As a government, sir, that is committed to improving the lives of New Zealanders, creating jobs, lifting income levels, we are committed to making the best use of those resources. And that, sir, should be a commitment from all members of this House. But, sir, what we should be doing also, and that's what we've actually done and is a reflection of this bill, is that we need to make economic use of the EEZ. And, sir, with this, it carries the risk to the environment. We understand that. So it is vital, sir, that we protect this vulnerable environment. It is very, very vulnerable. And, sir, we need to try and minimise as much as possible the environmental risks. So, sir, this is what National did. National introduced the Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Act. So this is the one, sir, that we are amending. And, sir, we put in place for this country, for the first time, the first comprehensive regulatory regime of the EEZ. And I think that, sir, that milestone is really important to highlight in this final reading. Mr. Speaker, the Act that we are amending here was indeed a major reform. It is significant and it was a very significant and a very complex piece of legislation. In fact, sir, there weren't 121 pages, there was 129 pages. And so, sir, it's no surprise that there has been unintended consequences. And, sir, the provisions around the transition then of the 4 current platform operators into this new regime has not been as clear as it could have been. And so in looking at that major legislation, very comprehensive, 129 pages. So granted, sir, it would have been nice to see Shell Todd Oil Services allowing much more time between their application for consent and the expiry of their current permit. Sir, if the permit had not been granted in time, they would have had to cease operations immediately. The effect, of course, and we've heard this right across the House, the effect would have been major. And so looking at that, sir, over 20% of New Zealand's gas actually would have been in jeopardy. The supply would have stopped. So, sir, this essential resource that many families and businesses rely on, and I know that previous speakers from the other side of the House have said that we're using that as an excuse, as part of having to amend this bill. That may be so, but, sir, at the end of the day, it is not only protecting those people who would have suffered drastically if we just completely shut it down immediately. It was that, sir, that we addressed, but as I said previously, there's a number of other reasons why we needed to amend this bill. So, sir, if the permit had not been granted in time, they would have had to cease operations immediately, and then it would have been mayhem, particularly for a number of New Zealanders, families, businesses, and so that's why part of this amendment was really, really important. So, Shell Todd Oil Services have now been granted the consent. We all understand that. But there are, sir, weeks before that expiry, only weeks, but there is, sir, an appeals process, and we understand that as well. But I think looking at the bill, the appeals process, it cannot hold up the actual pathway travel of the permit itself. And I think that's a really important part also of this legislation. Sir, this bill doesn't just ensure the continuity of gas supply, while any appeals regarding Shell Todd Oils or the other three consents are heard. It also ensures that there is a sensible transitional process in place for the remaining three other operators. These companies, we've only heard really about Shell Todd Oil. These other companies, sir, Australian Worldwide Exploration, OMV New Zealand, and Origin Energy Resources. So, sir, they still be required to lodge their applications for consent at least 9 months before the current permits expire, provided the Environmental Protection Authority accepts an application as complete. So, sir, looking at this, the other part of it, and in addition, if any appeals are lodged, the current permits will continue to apply until they have been heard and the final decisions made. Sir, I want to, as everyone else has done, and as the final speaker, to acknowledge the submitters, because there was a good cross-section of submitters, and I suppose it's all about quality as opposed to quantity. There were very few, but they covered, major stakeholders within the industry, major stakeholders who were tangata whenua, mana whenua, who were also really active groups that share the same whakaaro or share the same things that we actually, on this side of the House, really do believe are very, very important to the sustainability of our environment. The other one, sir, is the other members on the Local Government and Environment Committee, and of course our very able chair, Scott Simpson. Sir, finally, this particular bill here, we're here today because the government introduced something that was long overdue. That's why a proper regulatory regime for our oceans. For the first time, sir, in our history, environmental risks in the exclusive economic zone must be assessed and managed. This was a great step forward, I believe, sir, and one that makes me proud to be a National Party MP and a blue-green. Finally, sir, our natural environment is our greatest asset. National, successful economic and environmental policies must go hand in hand.
Order. I did give the member some warning to wind up. Thank you. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote is called for. Clerk will conduct a party vote.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
32 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
12 votes in favour.
Māori Party.
2 votes opposed.
Act New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.
The ayes are 119, the noes are 2. The bill will be read a third time.
Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Transitional Provisions Amendment Bill, third reading.
Call on government orders of the day numbers 2 to 4.
Harmful Digital Communications Bill, committee stage. Environmental Reporting Bill, committee stage.